Welcome in to Palmetto Sports Daily, a big Thursday edition. I'm Carmine Gemei here in Greenville with Bronwyn over in the Charleston area, Jill in Conway, Myrtle Beach, and the legend Rick Henry in the capital of Columbia. Okay, Rick, we might as well clear the air because I know you have a lot to say. The hat. Now, I'm wearing this hat, which I don't normally wear, because the BMW Charity Pro-AM event, the Corn Ferry Tour, is here at Thornblade Club, just down the road in the upstate, in the Greenville area. We did an Access Carolina special, which was a lifestyle show, an hour long. I was invited to participate for the second straight year, which I'm very excited about. I got into character. We're going to see it in the interview I did with Charlotte Hornets legend Dell Curry in a moment, but let's just get this out of the way. Thoughts on the appearance today?
Well, Carmine, when I see that hat, I think you're trying to pull off a Sam Snead look, legendary Hall of Fame golfer. He was known for wearing that style of hat, also with a sweater. Okay, so I can understand that you're out on the golf course, but I think it looked a lot better on Sam Snead.
Okay.
For those of you listening,
Bronwyn,
it's a fedora.
Yes.
I feel that the hat is too small for your head. That's my thing. It seems like the brim of the hat is not.
No, Bronwyn.
Well, it's kind of it's the
how
style of the
you're supposed to say
hat.
it. Carmine's head is too big for the hat. Not that the hat is too small for his head.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, that's true. It was a biological problem, not a fashion problem. And I had a bit, you guys, the last time I was on trial and I was defending myself, I was in Ireland, and it took me a long time to find an extra large cap from Ireland. So thank you for understanding.
That's an extra large?
But let's get to our...
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was going through some archive video just last month and you were wearing that hat.
Oh.
Didn't you wear this hat at last year's tournament?
Yes, I did. I don't know if my head got bigger since then.
Oh.
So then your story's not true.
No, in Ireland I got a cap, not this hat.
A cap.
I got an Irish cap. Yes, but I'm saying the cap size was extra large. Now maybe I need a double XL in this size. So anyways, let's use the brain and let's get to our next topic, because more importantly, you're just going to see the hat a lot in this interview, so I wanted to clear the air. Spoke with Dell Curry, of course, the Charlotte Hornets legend, recently had his jersey retired, hung in the rafters, about being at the BMW Charity Pro-AM golf event and his golfing family as well. Take a listen. Here with Dell Curry, the newest member of the Charlotte Hornets Hall of Fame. But Dell, you're not only a basketball family, also a golf family. When you're standing over a shot, just like you were standing over a three-point shot back in the day, which you made so many, what are you thinking to yourself when you're over that golf ball?
Well, it's a lot tougher than having a basketball in my hands. I actually practiced that a lot. I wish I practiced more golf, but actually I try to take all the thoughts out of it and just, swing freely. Get in trouble if I think too much, but, don't get upset when I hit a bad shot, but get real excited when I do hit a good one. Hopefully I hit more good ones than bad ones.
And it's also a lot of pressure when you have your son Seth, and I know Steph as well, big golf family. What's the camaraderie or the conversation like when you're playing with or maybe against Seth in a competitive environment like this?
Totally different if we're teammates than we're not. We got a little wager today. Anytime we're on the court, the handicap system comes in, but it's a great time just to spend some uninterrupted time together. They're so busy now, and it's hard to get time where it's just them and myself. So I take advantage of any time I can of these situations, but to be able to play with the pros and watch those guys do it the way they do it's going to be spectacular.
And do you ever parent them or give them advice on the golf course, or do you just let them do their thing, or how is that interaction on the course?
Well, I try to always be a parent, but not out here. Because they're just as good, if not better than I am. So golf is different. I could talk about shooting the basketball with them all day long, but everybody's golf swing is different from how you feel to what you see to what you're thinking over that shot. So no golf instruction from the old man. We just out here to have fun.
And now that your name and jersey's up in the rafters in Charlotte, does that give you any athletic confidence taken to the golf course? Or how does that make you feel? Because you're still an athlete out here, even though basketball's retired, but you're still probably in your golf prime.
Probably not any more confident. I like to say I'm humbly confident in everything, but no, it was a special couple of days. The Hornets lifted my jersey in the rafters. That was a fun time, and all the kids were there as well to see that, grandkids as well. But try to always be a confident person, whether I'm on the court, behind the mic, or on the golf course. You just can't let negativity seep in.
Right, well put. And Dell, last one for you. What do you think about just this tournament in general, in the upstate, in South Carolina, and all the activities that are involved, concerts and dinners and everything that comes along with it?
This is my first time here, but Seth, I think this is third or fourth, and he was like, "Pops, you got to come down to the BMW Charity Pro-AM. It's a great event." So I'm so thankful I was able to come down and play this year. It's been a great experience so far. Like you said, the people, the concerts, the golf, and then the charity aspect of it as well. A lot of good people out here giving back. They're fortunate in how they live their lives, but they're able to give back, and that's what it's all about.
Well, Dell, thanks for giving back some time to us. Appreciate it. All right, for Dell Curry, I'm Carmine Gemei for Palmetto Sports. Well, great to talk to the legendary Dell Curry, a Carolinas legend, and also great point he made about putting the negativity aside and focusing on the positives. I wish our panelists here could focus a little bit more on the positives than the negatives about my hat here, but moving past that, Rick, because we are a positive sports show here on Palmetto Sports Daily and podcast form as well. What did you take away from hearing from a legendary Dell Curry and spending some quality time with his son, which I know you like to do with Brian as well, involving sports?
Oh, yeah, you always have to take time out for family. But Dell Curry, I got to interview him a few times when he was actually playing for the Hornets. Great guy, really have a lot of respect for him. And I like the fact that he was giving advice for everyone, not just athletes, but even broadcasters like ourselves about, whatever you do, you have to have confidence. So Carmine, is after talking to Dell Curry, do you have more confidence in your abilities to navigate this thing we call life?
Yes, Dell Curry has really put me on the right track toward life, I would say, and golf also, because you don't want to be thinking about too much when you're over the golf ball. You want to have a positive outlook on life. And really, I think when we're in these interview settings so often, because it's somewhat of a constant thing, interviewing someone like Dell Curry is still a wow moment. But a lot of what they're saying, there's so much life truth and life lessons in there that have allowed them to get to where they are. There's some good things to take away from a lot of the success that they've achieved as well. So we'll speak about another champion, and that is Nick Saban, his take on NIL and the crazy world of college football right after this short break.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Yesterday, former Alabama football coach Nick Saban appeared before a Senate panel in Washington to discuss the Protect College Sports Act, which was introduced last week by Ted Cruz and another senator. There's been a lot of debate about the positives and negatives of the transfer portal and NIL. We've seen kids transfer from school to school to school. Some guys are on their fourth school. And then NIL, there's no way to know how much people are getting from outside sources because now the schools, there's a limit on how much they can pay their entire athletics department when it comes to paying their players. And Nick Saban, he used an example. He said when he was at Alabama, their first collective had 2.7 million. Then it went to 7 million, 10 million. And after he left, 17 million, 24 million. And he says now you have schools that have close to $40 million rosters. And he had a whole lot to say about NIL and transfer portal. Let's take a listen.
So if we continue to do that, We're going to lose Olympic sports. We're going to lose non-revenue sports. We're going to lose scholarships. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to have football and basketball succeed, and we'll have club sports for everything else with no scholarships. That's horrible. I mean, we can't let that happen. Congress does need to fix the mess, and the courts create a national framework so people inside college sports can enforce fair rules. Without legal certainty, every rule becomes another lawsuit, every standard becomes another risk, and the system keeps drifting toward the professional model. I believe we want an education-based model that compensates athletes fairly, protects athletes properly, and still preserves development, competition, opportunity, and tradition. I've seen people come, young people come in the program, need structure, need discipline, need coaching, need academic support, need accountability, and I've seen them leave with a degree, a career, a family, and a better chance to be successful in life. I think the current system that we have in college athletics right now makes it more and more difficult to do these things. We've moved away from development to focusing on money and not life skills. So to put this in perspective, if you had the biggest, baddest Ferrari that you could ever have and it was going 150 miles an hour toward the Grand Canyon, somebody needs to tap the brakes.
Okay, so Nick Saban, I guess he's asking Congress to tap the brakes, and then that brings up some questions like if they want to put a cap or limit the amount of money that student athletes can make, are you also going to limit the amount of money that coaches can make and also put some rules on coaches leaving their schools? And so I don't know. Like Nick said, you'll see lots of stuff going into the courts with lawsuits.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool in general to see a lot of these coaches standing up, and even though, of course, Nick Saban, a former coach, but as far as college football coaches, probably the greatest of all time and one of the biggest voices still to this day that we hear on College Game Day every Saturday. So he has a lot of pull, and it's cool to hear coaches like him, Clemson coach Dabo Swinney, standing up saying there needs to be rules around this process because it's just ridiculous. I mean, you look at what happened with the Luke Farrelly fiasco, the Clemson linebacker who was signed to the team in class, participating in team activities, and according to Dabo's 20-minute testimony, basically a deposition that he gave on the timeline of the Farrelly fiasco that ended him up in Ole Miss with the photo of the $1 million contract that he said the Ole Miss coach allegedly texted Luke Farrelly while he was in Clemson class. I mean, that's tampering by the rules, you know, by the letter of the law. If you look at the definition, that's what it is when the guy's not in the portal yet. So there definitely needs to be rules around how much money you can offer, whether it be through NIL or, like you said, these collectives, which are part of the NIL system. But in an unregulated system like this, Jill, it's just crazy. There's no rules, and hopefully, you know, as more and more coaches continue to speak up, eventually there's some government and NCAA intervention because they're really dropping the ball, no sports pun intended, on making this process a sustainable thing.
One of the main points that he really said that stuck with me as a former athlete myself in college is the possibility of scholarships then being taken away from other smaller sports like lacrosse, which is what I played, and that is a very real possibility if this number does keep going up. There is a way, and we can find a way to make sure that these players are paid, but there has to be a cap in a way where it's not creating so much discourse and uncertainty. Bronwyn?
Yeah, and that's a perfect point to bounce off of. This kind of reminded me, or actually it's directly related. Arkansas just recently had cut their tennis program. Out of the blue, had cut, I believe it's both men and women's tennis. These are kids that have scholarships. These are kids that have been at the school for years, and out of the blue, it was gone overnight. And part of that is because of that unrestricted NIL that goes to those, he made a good point, goes to those big things where it's going to be football and basketball are the only successful ones. Maybe not at Arkansas, but at other places. And so the only thing that brought that, they did reinstate the tennis program, but I think that was almost a wake-up call, I think, to a lot of college athletics that that's a huge risk that you're running when we're talking about just unprecedented amounts of money being given to these bigger sports, that the kids who are very good at tennis or very good at lacrosse or whatever sport it is, they don't get that development, they don't get the opportunities that the bigger programs get. I don't know. I think he made a lot of great points, and I think it's great that a big program like Alabama, who has dominated in years and years and years of sports, is coming out in defense of this, Rick.
One thing he did say yesterday is that if this keeps up, then perhaps we should stop calling them student athletes and just athletes, because I've often wondered about this myself. With kids bouncing from school to school to school, are their academics suffering? Because not everyone can go on to become a professional athlete. And then what are you left with then? And also, if kids are steadily chasing the bag, but they're not getting life-changing money or generational money, that money will eventually run out. So if you don't develop the skills to manage your money, and if you don't have a degree so you can go out and make good money, have a career, then I think you are doing a disservice to athletes.
No doubt about it, Rick, and that's something that Dabo has said many times as far as the graduation rate of Clemson, which is right at the top of all Division I programs. And when you change schools or you enroll in the mid-semester, or some credits don't transfer, you end up going from chasing the bag to fumbling the bag on your future, because now you might not have a degree, might not have that education for, even if you do make the league, the average 2, 3, 4 NFL stint, and you're out. You got to have a fallback plan. So hopefully there's some guardrails that get in place pretty soon. But no guardrails on our show. We're ready to discuss the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final right after this.
Well, welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We're talking hockey. The Carolina Hurricanes looking to even up the series against the Vegas Golden Knights after dropping Game 1. Kind of uncharacteristically, I might add, but hats off to Vegas. But Vegas has had 7 comeback wins in the playoffs. Regular season, 21 comeback wins. They did come back from being down in this first game. And then if you look at the history, in Stanley Cup history, guys, teams that take a 2-0 lead, if Vegas gets that lead tonight in a best-of-7 format, they go on to win the Cup 90.9% of the time. Carolina head coach Brendan Moore said his top line has to have more offensive production tonight. That's kind of, duh. But he did say that. He said they have to get going if they want to get better production. Neither team scored on the power play in Game 1. Obviously, getting goals there is going to be helpful for Carolina. But we'll see. I mean, this has been Carolina's been pretty dominant this season, Jill.
Yeah, you talk about going 0-2 on that power play. If they scored there, that's a completely different game. At least one of them, you're looking at a tie in a completely different direction. We're going to be looking for a different type of defense from the Canes tonight. Vegas is able to capitalize when they catch them on transition, and they're a little bit out of their structure. They play a man, and sometimes when you play too high up on a man, they catch you lacking, and it creates some space. So just making sure defensively that the Canes are on it, and also making sure that they capitalize off of Vegas's mistakes. That's what Vegas did to them. Those transition goals were killer, and that's ultimately what won the game, and I'm sure they'll tighten things up here against that veteran group of Vegas.
Yeah, Jill, you make a great point with that man-to-man defense, because that's exactly what Vegas used against the Hurricanes. Usually it's worked for the Hurricanes, but in the backdoor cut scenario that Vegas scored that go-ahead game-winning goal on them with just 3.5 minutes left in the last matchup to take that 5-4 lead and set the final score, that man-to-man defense was just out of the reach of the Hurricanes defender's stick, and ended up being the golden goal for Vegas. Although the Hurricanes did have a great chance at the end Only losing by 1 goal, Rick, but we've seen this team be dominant in the playoffs, like both Bronwyn and Jill mentioned, going into, before this loss, had a 12-1 record in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So hopefully they bounce back and have a great first period like they did in the 2 games prior to their loss, where they went out to 3-0 leads on the Montreal Canadiens, back-to-back games in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see if they can hopefully even the series, because if they don't, apparently there's a 90% chance they're going to lose.
Yeah, I was going to ask you folks, if the Canes, if they lose game 2, I mean, is there any way for them to bounce back and win it? Because then you have to go to Vegas, and with all that pressure on that young Hurricane team, I just think they're in danger of getting swept.
That's one of the last things you would want to happen, is to go 0-2 and then have to travel to away ice. It's more pressure and a completely different atmosphere. And it's not a question of if the Canes can score. 2 days ago was not a low-scoring hockey game. It's just more of if they can get their defense together.
I mean, I think you talk about it with anything with hockey. Coming back, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, in an 0-2, if they dig themselves into this hole, that's going to be tough to come back. And like you mentioned, at home in Vegas, you know that crowd's going to be insane. Not to mention, Vegas is a pretty big physical team. I don't know if they could come back. I really don't.
Yeah, I'd have to think the answer would definitely be no. I think they would have a better chance of getting swept than coming back. Because they're heading to the away ice. And also with that Vegas atmosphere that you mentioned, Bronwyn, you have to consider the vices that go into that atmosphere. Lots of gambling and lots of booze that are motivating the passion behind the Vegas Golden Knights, in addition to cheering for their team. But none of that here on PSD, just a calm wrap-up right after this. Well, we just want to take our hats off to all of you for watching and hoping for a hat trick for the Hurricanes tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.